A word about the President. For 7.5 years I've worked alongside him, and I'm proud to have been his partner. And we've had triumphs. We've made some mistakes. We've had some setbacks. Sometimes I feel like
And America needs a military where our best and brightest are proud to serve.
In the name of City of Dinant, I have the honor to give to the President of USA an instrument of sax.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong.
Let's get physical, physical. I wanna get physical. Let's get into physical. Let me body talk.
Hey, welcome to The Resistance. This is Forrest Wilson back on the air after a brief mini vacation. 904-222-TALK, 904-8255. I want you to mark your calendar for 9/11/2015. And the reason why I want you to mark your calendar is I want you to show up for a tribute, a Benghazi tribute. It's scheduled for 7 to 8:45 p.m. at the Salem Center right here in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida. And it's on 9/11. From 6 to 7, there's a meet and greet, an opportunity to community organize, but really from 7 to 8:45 p.m. is when you need to be there. Members of the Citizens Commission on Benghazi are going to be speaking on the Benghazi incident. And I really think it's important that we get the truth out before this next presidential election, as well as the re-election possibly of certain members of Congress and the Senate. So again, 9/11/2015 right here in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida at the Salem Center. You can go. This is an event, by the way, sponsored by the First Coast Tea Party. And listen, I don't care what your political belief is, because this group, this Citizens Commission on Benghazi, really has a stellar panel. 2 of those panel members will be here. One is retired Admiral James Ace Lyons, a former 4-star admiral, commander-in-chief of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, and father of the Navy SEAL Red Cell program, as well as Claire Lopez, who's been on this program, formerly career operations officer with the Central Intelligence Agency, and a professor at the Center for Counterintelligence and Security Studies, executive director of the Iran Policy Committee from 2005 to 2006. She served as a consultant, intelligence analyst, and researcher for a variety of defense firms, as well as Rear Admiral Charles Kubik, retired. And that is the panel, that is the lineup for that evening. And I think it's important because I'm not sure we will survive a Hillary Clinton presidency. And the prospects of it really ought to scare anyone to death. This is in Politico. This is Paula Jones. If you recall, she accused then Governor Bill Clinton of propositioning her and really aggressive sexual behavior, otherwise known as sexual harassment. And she says there's no way that she did not know what was going on, that women were being abused and accosted by her husband, Jones said in an interview with Daily Mail Online. They have both lied. She's referring to Bill and Hill Clinton. Jones, now 48, sued Clinton in 1994, alleging that he propositioned her in an Arkansas hotel room while he was governor. The lawsuit preceded revelations about the president's affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky and his impeachment and later acquittal. She should not be running with the terrible history they have, Jones said, warning that the former president should not be allowed back in the White House. You know, a lot can change in the 16 months or so we've got between now and the election. But the prospects of Bill Clinton becoming the First Lady of the United States ought to scare the hell out of anyone listening to this broadcast. I mean, if this pantsuit wearing, ISIS arming, red grandma doesn't frighten you, then Bill Clinton as First Lady should. This man is not only a sexual predator, he is unfit for any public office. I mean, even dog catcher. And, many of you are saying, well, why? Let me sum this up for you. And of course, liberals everywhere and some dumbed down morons from other political persuasions will claim the Paula Jones, the Jennifer Flowers, the Monica Lewinskys, all these affairs were somehow a personal matter between Bill, the Strumpet, and Hillary. This man is potentially going to go back into the White House, and I'm sure he'll be participating in probably one of the most important branches of government. But the real reason why he should not be allowed back in is pretty simple. While he was president, he had an affair with Monica Lewinsky and lied about it. But it wasn't so much the lying that is problematic. And here's the rub. Bill, like all presidents, is presented with the most important, the most highly classified information on the planet. Every morning, the president is presented with the National Intelligence Daily. This is a briefing otherwise known as the NID. This document is a summary of all the intelligence at that moment from the men and women who serve in the intel community. These men and women, many who risk their lives on a daily basis, also have some of the highest security clearances. But the difference between Bill and these people at that time is the members of the intel community are regularly subjected to polygraphs and interrogation from the security apparatus of these various agencies to ensure that they haven't been compromised. They're interrogated literally on a regular basis to make sure things like their lifestyle and who they associate with are not opening them up to blackmail. Because blackmail and money are the two tools foreign intelligence operations, hostile intelligence operations, and agencies use to extort information, turn people, and create counterintelligence operations against the United States. Now think about that for just a moment. And forget about Paula Jones, Monica Lewinsky, and all those that you don't have any knowledge of. What if Bill and Hill have or had been compromised? I mean, all of these allegations of dirty money, all of the women who we know nothing about, and I'm sure there's a lot more that we don't know about besides the ones that we do. All the secret deals, are they really fit to return to the Oval Office in switched roles? And here's another one for you. What on God's green earth could Bill Clinton be saying in a 30-minute speech that's worth $500,000 to $1 million? Really, what could he be saying? And who's really benefiting from the speech? The audience? Bill? Or the organizers? 904-222-TALK, 904-222-TALK, 904-8255. Call in. I'm interested in what you have to say. Forrest Wilson, you're listening to The Resistance. We'll be right back.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
You know, I don't hear a lot of shows that get the disclaimer that the views and opinions expressed on this program are any different from any of the ownership of this station. Come on. Look, my views and opinions, I think, are very much in line with the American people. I don't care what you think you are. I don't think anybody wants to be controlled by this incredibly large government, over 500 agencies. By the way, if you find your health care plan's been canceled by one of these insurers that's been compromised by the federal government, or they're dropping your plan due to the expense, I've got a biblical alternative. That's right, it's Medishare, and it's administered by Christians, not bureaucrats. Medishare, a program of Christian Care Ministry, is a health care sharing program whose members share financial resources to pay each other's medical expenses. Medishare is not insurance. Resources are shared directly between members. Now, this is one of 3 ministries that has been given an exemption under this massive legislation, otherwise known as the Affordable or Unaffordable Care Act. Unaffordable because we don't know the whole price tag of this crap. But members of healthcare sharing ministries like Medishare comply with the Affordable Health Care Act and do not have to purchase health insurance or pay a penalty. Look, my membership in this group is cheaper than what I was getting by half from Blue Cross Blue Shield, which, by the way, they admitted to me they were going to cancel. They were going to cancel my policy. So anyways, I got in touch with these fine folks at Medishare. Go to mychristiancare.org, 800-772-5623, 800-772-5623. And I got this policy, literally, that covers my family. Yes, it's got a $10,000 deductible, but that's what I want. This fits me. And believe it or not, it's cheaper than the fine I would pay for not participating in Obamacare. Since 1993, Medishare members have shared more than $682 million in medical expenses, and because of its large network of providers, members have saved an additional $295 million in medical costs. Medishare was designed for Christians who agree on a specific set of biblical values and lifestyles. Go to mychristiancare.org, mychristiancare.org. Check them out. I love these guys, and again, I'm dealing with Christians, not bureaucrats. I'd take Christians over bureaucrats any day of the week. Tell them Forrest Wilson sent you. We don't take a lot of calls simply because I've only got an hour and I got a lot of information to share with you, but I've got a caller and I want to take her. Her name is Beth Heath. Beth, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you for calling in. Now, you are a member of the First Coast Tea Party and you're an organizer of this Benghazi event. I want you to tell the folks what it is, how they can get in touch with you, and why they need to come to this.
Okay, well, it's very obvious why we all need to come, and I want to thank you for spreading the word. I hope everybody will come to hear the real story, as only the Citizens Commission on Benghazi can tell. These experts have the facts that we all need to hear. We all know this Benghazi travesty is a blatant tyranny. An American ambassador, 3 veterans abandoned by this administration, murdered because of failures and conspiracies by now a presidential candidate, no less, Hillary Clinton, President Obama, others in the administration to ignore pleas for help and turn their back on their very own ambassador, just like they're turning their back on the rest of America's values and those that serve to protect. These 4 Americans represent all that is America. They represent our care and love for those in enemy territories that do not enjoy the freedoms that we here in America used to have. They represent the values that our veterans have to leave no veteran behind. They represent all of America's heroes' values and our long history of doing the right thing to protect the innocent. And foremost, they represent the spirit and very foundation and core of this republic. So unlike Hillary Clinton, who says, what difference does it matter? We know it makes a humongous difference.
What do you think of Bill Clinton as a first lady?
Oh, my gosh. No. We need to retire the Clintons in total. By our good graces, we allow them to be in America. They are treasonous. They have.
Well, they've got blood on their hands. It appears, based on this report, it looks like the American government switched sides in the war on terror, and that's what people really need to understand and hear. And that's why this event is so important. Now, your website, let me get your website and how people can call and find out about this event and where to go and et cetera. It's free, by the way, too. This is free.
It is free. It is free. Of course, we'll accept donations. We are bearing some cost, of course, to get our speakers here, a great distinguished list of speakers from the Benghazi Commission, Citizens Commission. Our website is FCTP, which stands for First Coast Tea Party, FCTP Community, COMMUNITY.org. And the event is posted under events at the website, and you can RSVP there right on the website. You can call me at 705-6439, or you can call our office phone.
705-6439.
Correct. I'm looking up our office phone number as we speak. It is 683-3945.
683-3945. 904-683-3945. And this is for the Benghazi tribute. It's being done on September 11th. That's a Friday. You're going to get started at about 7 o'clock sharp. Now, they can come for a meet and greet between 6 and 7. And I encourage people, I don't care what your background is. I don't care what you're thinking. Oh, I'm not going to that. It's a tea party. You know what? You've got Democrats and Republicans in your group, do you not?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We have all parties. I don't know about the rest of the audience, but I've had enough of these politicians that spit on our Constitution and our heritage 1 minute after taking a sworn allegiance to preserve, maintain, and defend the Constitution. Then they lie about everything they're doing to tear down the values that America stands for. And then, like Hillary Clinton, they have the nerve, the audacity to run again. It's absolutely disgusting.
Well, one of the things we've got to do with your group and groups like your group is from that group bring forth candidates. Out of 300 million people, we've got to have people better than Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush, and the likes of people that are just professional politicians. And I actually had somebody say to me, oh, but they've got, they don't have any experience. Thank God we need people with no experience that'll go up there and do the right thing, that can't be compromised by this Washington system, by these political elites that have really screwed this country, really screwed it up bad.
I couldn't agree more. It's absolute insanity to say, on the one hand, I'm dissatisfied with government, and then elect the same government officials. That is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results. So we need to revisit what we're doing when we're at the polls. Are we bringing in conservatives with American values, or are we not? And, so much for this name recognition and so on. That's malarkey. That's the problem that we have. More pages of regulations are being printed that reach to the moon every month. This is insane. Nobody even knows who's on first or where is first.
I think that's by design. Now, Bill Clinton gets $500,000 to $1 million per 30-minute speech. What could he be saying that's so important that would garner $500,000 to $1 million in speaking fees? What on God's green earth could he possibly say in that 30 minutes that would be worth that kind of fee?
Well, about the same thing as the Hollywood elitist. It's a matter of stargazing. People are infatuated with this artificial image of what is fame, and so it's all about the stargazing. There's nothing of substance that we have that we can educate ourselves or our children on. So it's just
I shook his hand in the foyer of CIA headquarters in 1995, and in addition to his hand being really slippery, he was awfully charming. I have to give him that. He was awfully charming. But I don't mind the guy living. I don't want him back in the White House. He can live, but not in the White House. Well, listen, Beth, I sure do appreciate your call. You are organizing the Tribute for Benghazi event on 9/11 right here at the Salem Center. It starts at 7, but get here at 6 because you'll want to mingle in the meet and greet, and you can go check it out at FCTP, First Coast Tea Party, FCTPcommunity.org. Did I get that right, Beth?
That's right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting me vet.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And you can contact Beth directly if you want to get involved in this event at 904-705-6439, 904-705-6439. If you want to contact the office of the First Coast Tea Party, it's 904-683-3945. More to come. You're listening to The Resistance with Forrest Wilson. Our website is wethepeople1787.org, wethepeople1787.org. If you want to weigh in on a Bill Clinton First Lady appearance, 904-222-TALK, 904-222-8255. Let's stop Bill Clinton from becoming the First Lady in 2016. I'll be right back.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
So I'm taking the time to really lay out the case why Bill Clinton should not be the First Lady come 2016. And I really didn't understand it until I dug into it and really did some research on it. I really didn't understand this whole Benghazi and why the White House and the State Department did everything they could to cover it up. Do you remember Hillary saying, the people responsible for this video will be held accountable? Do you remember that, Jack? Whatever happened to the guy that made that video? By the way, did you even see the video? It was actually a trailer for, I guess, a longer length feature film. I don't think the feature film was ever made. It was the trailer that apparently was responsible for this attack on the Benghazi compound on September 11th that wound up killing the ambassador and 3 patriots on 9/11 and 9/12 several years ago. So this Benghazi panel, chaired by Trey Gowdy, which we had something in our organization to do with the selection of Trey Gowdy and this entire panel being convened. We talked about it on a previous show. But I know a lot of people are excited about it, but I'm really concerned, and here's why. You know, the stakes of this could not be higher, and I'm not talking about for the American people, I'm talking about for the Democrat Party. Because after Barack Obama leaves office, he will be the presumptive head of the Democrat Party, along with some other heavyweights, if they're still around, being Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. So you've got this presumptive nominee for the Democrat Party for president, Hillary Clinton. She's literally in the crosshairs, and the entire Democrat Party could implode with this investigation if it results in what the Citizens Commission on Benghazi report has reported. If they come to the same conclusion, there's some serious problems in our federal government, some serious problems with the leaders, not only in this administration, but possibly in other areas of our government. We don't know where this will go, but I know this. The Citizens Commission on Benghazi has reported that the Obama administration, with the Clinton-led State Department, was running a fast and furious gun-running operation to the al-Qaeda-backed rebels in the Middle East. Now, do you remember John McCain meeting with some rebels in Libya, and he couldn't name which side they were on? Do you remember that? Jack, you're shaking your head. You know, this thing could really go wide and deep. Anyways, this is from WorldNet Daily, Dr. Jerome Corsi's article titled, Generals Conclude Obama-Backed Al-Qaeda, and this is dated January 19th, 2015. The Obama White House and the State Department, under the management of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, changed sides in the war on terror in 2011 by implementing a policy of facilitating the delivery of weapons to the al-Qaeda-dominated rebel militias in Libya attempting to oust Muammar Gaddafi from power. the Citizens Commission on Benghazi concluded in its interim report. In WND, WorldNet Daily interviews, several members of the commission have disclosed their finding that the mission of Christopher Stevens prior to the fall of Gaddafi and during Stevens' time as U.S. ambassador was the management of a secret gun-running program operated out of the Benghazi compound. Of course, he goes on. The Obama administration's gun-running project in Libya, much like the Fast and Furious program under Eric Holder's Justice Department, operated without seeking or obtaining authorization by Congress. And this probably sounds familiar to most people in this audience. How many times has this administration gone around the Congress? And why is it even important? Because that is our branch of government. That is the people's branch of government. This administration, its cabinet, and many of its agencies' heads, especially those appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, continue to subvert you and your will. They continue to bypass Congress. Now the bombshell. If Trey Gowdy and the Benghazi panel are successful and it is proven that weapons were provided to terrorist groups in the Middle East by the United States, many of these groups who have morphed into ISIS, well, Hillary Clinton, members of the administration, possibly including the president, could be guilty of treasonable offenses. Now, remember the Bill Clinton impeachment. Many acquitted Bubba for the sake of the country. It can and possibly will happen again. If Gowdy's successful, these are impeachable offenses. I mean, treason certainly rises to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors. They're so damaging to the administration, the Democrat Party, and the presumptive Democrat nominee, I think that many in Washington might choose to scuttle this as opposed to let the truth come out. It is that bad. Corsi's article continues. A big oh no moment. After Gaddafi is deposed and Stevens was appointed U.S. ambassador to Libya, the flow of weapons reverses, Claire Lopez notes. Now, Claire Lopez was on this show not too terribly long ago, and she informed us that they felt on the commission, the Benghazi Commission, Citizens Commission for Benghazi, felt that the United States had switched sides in the war on terror. So now Stevens has a job of overseeing the shipment of arms from Libya to Syria to arm the rebels fighting Assad, some of whom ultimately become al-Nusra in Syria, and some become ISIS. Kevin Shipp. When you get a chance, I want you to go to, just Google Citizens Commission on Benghazi, and you'll get the list of members of this incredible panel. Some of these guys are the top-ranking officials in the military, top-ranking officials in the intel community, top-ranking officials in Congress, including Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Anyways, Kevin Shipp, a former CIA officer and anti-terrorism expert who held several high-level positions in the CIA, also a member of this commission, is quoted in Corsi's article, and he says, the shocking part, maybe even a violation of international law that the Obama administration has been terrified to have fully revealed, is that Stevens, as part of his duties as a State Department employee, was assisting in the shipment of arms, first into Libya for the al-Qaeda-affiliated militia, with the weapons shipped subsequently out of Libya into Syria for use by the al-Qaeda-affiliated rebels fighting Assad. And we now know that those rebels, quote-unquote, morphed into ISIS. He goes on, very possibly these gun-running activities could be looked at as even treasonable offenses, which explains why the White House, the State Department, Susan Rice paraded around talking about a video right after this event occurred. Now, you can read this article in its entirety at WorldNet Daily. Again, the title is Generals Conclude Obama-Backed Al-Qaeda, dated January 19th, 2015, by Dr. Jerome Corsi. I encourage you to go read this article, regardless of what you think of Jerome Corsi. Remember, he kind of was the main birther. But that aside, this is serious stuff. And many of the quotes in this article are from the Citizens Commission on Benghazi. And these people on this commission, I can't imagine are all Republicans. I can't imagine they all have the same ideology. But when you read this and you understand the seriousness of this gun-running program, you begin to understand the problem that the White House has, Hillary Clinton has, and by default, the presumptive First Lady, Bill Clinton. Now, you can come hear some of this for yourself on 9/11 with this Benghazi tribute organized by the First Coast Tea Party, and I hope you'll show up. I want to take a break, and when I come back, I'll finish up. I want to get into how you're being subverted by our very own Congress, congressmen, and senators. You're listening to The Resistance, Forrest Wilson. If you want to chime in on anything, you can call me, 904-222-TALK, 904-222-8255. If you don't, that's fine. If you want to listen to past shows, go check out WeThePeople1787.org, WeThePeople1787.org. All I can say to you, America, is wake up! Smell the fire! I'll be right back.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
So I'm promoting this Benghazi tribute simply because I want the truth to come out. I think the American public deserves the truth, and I hope you'll come to it. It's 9/11/2015. I know it's a ways off, but I'm going to start promoting it each and every time I get on the radio here, because I want you to hear from the experts who can really define what happened in Benghazi. And it's very clear to me that this could literally bring down the entire Democrat Party, possibly some Republicans. I know John McCain, through his incompetence, was looking at arming some of these people, and apparently the administration did, in fact, have a gun-running operation that resulted in the death of Ambassador Stevens and several others. So, speaking of going around Congress and the American people, you know, obtaining authorization by Congress, which this administration seems to be adept at not doing, the 500 or so federal agencies, its agency heads, and especially the ones appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, continue to subvert you and your will. And again, it doesn't really matter what your political persuasion is or which team you root for. This is happening right here, right now. In addition to gun running, illegally granting invaders amnesty, and they are invaders, I don't care if they're armed or unarmed, and a whole host of other offenses, they're passing legislation known as administrative law, bypassing Congress, thereby bypassing you and imposing a will of someone other than you on you. You know, we still have three branches of government, not one, as President Hussein would have you believe. Here's how the federal government bypasses our Congress and you. Federal agencies are granted, and much of the legislation Congress passes, rulemaking authority. I'm sure you've heard it. They pass these bills, and I'm sure you've heard them say, this grants this agency rulemaking authority. I mean, that's why Dodd-Frank and the Affordable Care Act legislation are so dangerous. The democratically controlled Congress, which voted this tyranny into existence, granted broad powers to federal agencies, including rulemaking authority, when they passed Dodd-Frank and the Affordable Care Act. Now, these bills themselves were in excess of 2,000 pages, and I doubt any of the people that we elected to represent us read them. In fact, many admitted that they hadn't. But these new rules and regulations codified in the Code of Federal Regulations, otherwise known as the CFR, is the codification of the general and permanent rules and regulations, sometimes called administrative law, published in the Federal Register by the executive departments and agencies of the federal government of the United States. So stay with me. This rulemaking authority is completely out of hand. Did you read a book this year? Maybe a couple of books so far? How many books do you read in a year? Several? One? None? How many do you think you could read? Could you keep up with 12 books, say 12 300-page books, 3,600 pages or so? Do you think you could do that? 3,600 pages total. Could you keep up with that? How about 300 books? How about 90,000 pages? Read, digested, and comprehended. Could you do that? Really? Then you better start reading, because our federal government, through its 500 or so agencies and its 2.5 million bureaucrats, produces an enormous amount of red tape, otherwise known as rules and regulations, about 90,000 pages per year. Those 90,000 pages imposed upon you each year are not debated, not proposed, not read, and aren't even voted on by anyone representing you. They're just simply imposed on you by these federal agencies. And man, if you don't think it's time for civil disobedience, I'm not sure what will convince you of that. There's no way that anybody can keep up with 90,000 pages a year. Think about that for a moment. That's 10 pages every hour of every day, 365 days a year. And I bet most Americans aren't even aware of these new laws, the process by which they're passed, or the agencies imposing them. And the definition of it is bureaucratic despotism. Have you ever heard that term? I doubt you'll hear a politician say bureaucratic despotism. No, you hear politicians say things like, this democracy. This couldn't be further from a democracy. Let me tell you where we have democracy. How about Ferguson, Missouri? There you have mob rule and democracy. Anybody who says democracy in a speech ought to be rebuked and reminded that this is a republic. And our Constitution guarantees a Republican form of government. Not a Republican Party form of government, a Republican form of government. In other words, 3 branches with a Congress which represents the people. But we are being subverted. And if you don't think we are, just think about the insanity of the Patriot Act. And I know many of you are thinking, oh, well, listen, this is keeping us safe. There isn't any evidence that the collection of metadata has kept this country safe. There's not one terrorist attack thwarted that can be pointed to as a result of the metadata collection program. The reality is, and the solution is, we've got to target those that would do us harm. Those that would do us harm are Islamic fundamentalists. And we know who they are, we know where they worship, and we know what they are capable of. Now, I'm not indicting the Islamic faith. I'm indicting the Islamic fundamentalists. Why aren't we keeping tabs on these mosques and the people that go there and the message that they get? It would be simple to follow the imams. It would be simple to monitor their programs. But I guess in the interest of political correctness, we've got to look at everybody. I hope you'll call your congressman and your senator and say, we do not need a Patriot Act. We need some common sense policing. By the way, if we're not careful, we're going to wind up in a police state. You know that this government is actively moving to nationalize the police. There's an article on the Wall Street Journal right now that talks about the increase in crime as a result of Ferguson-style policing. In other words, the police are stopping policing in these communities. And the crime rate is dramatically increasing, as well as the violence. And this, my friends, is democracy in action. These places no longer have a Republican form of government. The people have abdicated to democracy. And the only thing I can say is shame on any politician that would call this great nation a democracy. In any event, I hope you're going to stay tuned, and I hope you're going to attend this Benghazi tribute on 9/11/2015, hosted by the First Coast Tea Party. And again, if you want to find out more about it, it's FCTP, First Coast Tea Party, FCTPcommunity.org. And you can go there now and check out the website. You can donate to the First Coast Tea Party, or you can just show up. You know, the first thing to do in any civil disobedience is to show up. Now, this is actually an organized event. It's not civil disobedience, but how far are we away from it? Really, how far are we away from it? I also want you to check out the Mohammed Cartoon Contest, which took place last evening out in Phoenix, Arizona. Just go check out the pictures of the citizens that showed up in support of the First Amendment. Don't let these politicians subvert us. Don't let them subvert the First Amendment. We need people to stand up. And by the way, many of them were armed and exercising their Second Amendment right. Those amendments are so important. I think they're the cornerstone, the first, the second, and the fourth. Be sure and remind your congressman and senator that they don't need to listen to all of us. They need to focus on the problem before the problem's so far out of hand that you and I have to do something about it. Because at that point, it really will be, well, not sure what it'll be, but it'll be ugly. And it doesn't need to go there. Okay, mychristiancare.org. They do not support this program, but I support them. I want you to check them out. MetaShare, it was designed for Christians who agree on a specific set of biblical values and lifestyles. If you find your health care plan canceled or your employer dropping your plan due to the expense, I've got a biblical alternative. It's MetaShare, administered by Christians, not bureaucrats. Go to mychristiancare.org and check them out. And tune back in next Saturday from 2 to 3. You're listening to The Resistance. This has been your host, Forrest Wilson. Thank you so much. Let's keep Bill Clinton from becoming the First Lady in 2016. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.